Games, which could change the face of Olympic.
At Gamefly, our passion for
We are an American family, and we rise or fall together as one nation and as one people.
All right. Rapid attack. Okay, your turn. Go for it. 12. All right.
Dungeons and Dragons will not be the game it is, if not for constant evolution and innovation. But this, I pledge to you, while there will be room for refinement, the game will remain the same. The game will remain the same.
Ah, 4th edition. The one where every class had daily and encounter abilities. The one where every class felt samey and wizards were reduced to glorified card dealers. The one where there was too much focus on combat and not enough on RP. The one that required you to use battle maps and minis. You know, the MMO one. That's the version of 4E that lives in our collective memory. It was too boring, too tactical, too crunchy, too different. It was not real D&D. But that's not the whole story. Buried within the back and forth between 4E haters and 4E lovers, all 12 of them.
Stop booing! There's nothing wrong with it. There are dozens of us.
There's more to the story. What if 4E wasn't simply a detour in the evolution of Dungeons & Dragons, but rather one of its most purposefully crafted editions? What if, beneath its emphasis on encounter powers and mini-spaced combat, there existed a clear guiding philosophy, a thoughtful vision for how the game should play, and the type of world it should live in? Because once you see what they were actually building, the intent behind its design, 4E begins to appear less like a mistake and more like an intelligently crafted game. Internally, the design team put together a set of ideas and called it the Orcus Design Tenets, a document outlining exactly what 4th edition was meant to be. And no, it wasn't a thoughtless and evil misstep. That was 4E's own OGL scandal. No, the actual game, it was intentional and focused. This was an attempt to reimagine certain elements of D&D with intention and clarity. The game remained rooted in high fantasy, with magic, heroes, and a structure of classes and levels. The Dungeon Master was still a guide for storytelling, while players were envisioned as a collaborative team rather than a collection of disparate abilities. The rules are here to help you, not to punish you. Options, not restrictions. Make the game easier to design for, easier to run. Give players something cool at every level. This design was crafted to align with the way people actually play the game, and to reimagine Dungeons & Dragons for a modern audience, with computer-age tools, clearer mechanics, and a new design language that brought D&D into the 21st century. But obviously, that did not happen. For a lot of different reasons, 4E just didn't work. And I'm not here to relitigate that. Most of the Orcus design tenets, still solid, but the execution stumbled, and the edition got buried beneath controversy, confusion, and a lot of hard feelings. But here's what gets lost in all of that. That same design philosophy, the clarity, the modularity, the emphasis on player experience, wasn't limited to rules. It shaped the world they built too. Because if you're going to design a new game, you need a setting that actually supports how it's meant to be played. One that's easy to build in, easy to shape, and full of space for player stories. And that's exactly the philosophy and framework they made. The 4E design team, like with the Orcus Design Tenets, built their setting assumptions around one big question. What kind of world actually supports the kind of game we're playing? The answer they came to, their new setting framework, they called it Points of Light. And it redefined how a D&D world could function. Not as a finished product with a big setting book, but as a framework. A world full of openings. A world that puts story potential in every direction without telling you what that story has to be. To really understand what made Points of Light special, you have to compare it to what came before and what came after. Let's start with the big one. The Forgotten Realms. The Realms is the default setting for most of modern D&D. It's detailed, expansive, and absolutely drowning in lore. There are dozens of nations, named gods, entire continents worth of political drama, and NPCs who've been alive since the 80s. If you want a big, living world with decades of canon, the Realms has it. It also has a place that can support pretty much any kind of story. But that's kind of the problem too. It's not your world, it's someone else's. As a DM, it's easy to feel like you're just filling in the gaps, like you're not creating, like you're maintaining continuity. And when players can Google every city, every god, and every dungeon, discovery kind of loses its edge. And then there's Eberron, a setting that does feel different. It feels fresh and unique, and it's also much more focused. Magic as technology, airships, lightning rails, elemental power systems. No war intrigue, shapeshifting spies, nations built on magical warfare. Eberron is built around a central twist. What happens when magic becomes infrastructure? It's great and incredibly flavorful, but it's deliberately dense. The setting comes with a clear tone and a lot of moving parts, which is great. Clear tone is important for a campaign setting. You can absolutely build campaigns there, but you're building inside a very specific narrative frame. Points of Light is different. Most D&D settings give you a world that's already known. But Points of Light said, what if the world isn't filled in yet? What if you, the players, are the ones making the map? That's what Points of Light is all about. The idea is simple. The world is mostly wild, dangerous, and unknown. And scattered throughout the darkness are a few small places. Towns, keeps, city-states. They manage to hold back the chaos. They're not necessarily safe, but they are surviving. Often barely. A Point of Light might be a trading post, a crumbling fortress, a dwarven necropolis, or a temple that still answers prayers. But leave it, and you're in the dark. Literally and figuratively. You don't know what's in the woods. You don't know who controls the ruins up the river. You don't know if the trail still leads anywhere. You have to find out. That's what makes this kind of world very adventurable. Travel matters, exploration matters. The players are living in a world that's barely held together, one beacon at a time. And again, just because you're in a Point of Light doesn't mean you're safe. The local lord might be running a death cult. The mayor might be a vampire. The guards might be stretched so thin, they're ignoring the people begging for help. You can rest here, but sooner or later, someone's going to knock on your door and ask if you're brave enough or stupid enough to go into the woods. It's not defined by lore, it's defined by absence, by mystery, threat, and a space to grow. No kingdom you need to study, no dragon-marked house to remember, no chosen of Mystra to tiptoe around. Just a town, a road, a ruined keep that nobody's gone near in decades. It's not better than the Realms or Eberron, but it's better at something else. It's better for DMs who want freedom. It's better for players who want to feel like pioneers and explorers on the edge of civilization. And it's better for campaigns that grow out of character choices and collaborative world building. Which, coincidentally, the Points of Light philosophy is how we often tell new DMs to start building their own world. Start with a town and some NPCs and a quest nearby. So just start small and fill in as you need it, or as the players fill it in. That's fully compatible with a Points of Light setting, and in fact encouraged. The starting town is a Point of Light, and there's adventure steps from the starting town. It's wild and untamed, and it also lies upon the bones of past empire. That's why you find magical items and treasure and monsters and skeletons, because this place used to be prosperous and filled with people. Points of Light is kind of grim in that way. And in 4E, the prototypical Points of Light setting was Wizard's Nentir Vale. While WotC didn't invent the idea of a Points of Light setting, or the ideas and features therein, they did codify it with Nentir Vale. And that's pretty much the video. If you're a new DM or a veteran wanting to start up a new campaign, consider a Points of Light type setting. It's really cool, I promise. The rest of this video is mostly me talking about how much I like Nentir Vale, because I love the setting. I think there's plenty to lift from 4E, and this is near the top of that list. Also, if you like so far, please like and sub and comment and all that YouTube jazz. It really does help the channel. So yeah, I'm just going to be talking about Nentir Vale. When 4E launched, the only thing the setting had was this design philosophy and a small starter adventure in the DMG. Throughout 4E, we got trickles of lore and adventures, but we never got a giant setting book. Of course, this can turn people off. I personally like big setting books. I like to work within constraints present in lore-heavy settings. I find my creativity is sparked the most when I have constraints. But it's also sparked when I have to answer questions, which Nentir Vale has a ton of questions because of its lack of lore. And even the trickles of lore that we got in published adventures and even Dragon Magazine always seem to spark my ideas and be easy to integrate. My favorite Nentir Vale book, however, is not an adventure, it's Threats to Nentir Vale. This is the closest to a setting book that Nentir Vale gets. It starts with a handful of pages of preamble on the setting, highlighting some towns and fallen empires, before getting into monsters, because this book is largely a collection of monsters. And frankly, this is how I kind of think of monsters. If I were to ever make a monster book, it would have lots of proper nouns and big baddie bosses. Things like Blackfang Gnolls, Daggerberg Goblins, Dark Drake of the Moon Hills. Not just Gnolls, Goblins, and Drakes, but their factions, a group with goals and a culture. And with entries like this for big bad dragons, Bitterstrike, the white worm of Winterbowl, is queen of her forest. Half blind from an old wound, Bitterstrike has acquired a multitude of subjects to be her eyes. Her icy vengeance is legendary. Although her servants wander, they never stray. Or how about I was never know how to say Calistrix? Calistrix in the Dawnforge Mountains high above the mortals of Hammerfast. The three-headed dragon Calistrix is eager to unleash her wrath upon Nentir Vale and destroy everything in her path. Or how about this entry from Vestapok? Rousted from his lair in the Cairngorm Peaks by dark visions, the green dragon Vestapok and his kobold worm priest companion are bound by what they believe to be a common destiny. Good stuff, vague and evocative. What the hell is this common destiny? Who blinded Bitterstrike? What is the Dawnforge Mountains, and why are they called that? This sourcebook has just enough information and just enough fluff that sets the imagination ablaze. One of the major plot points of Nentir Vale was a multiversal spanning event called the Abyssal Plague. The plague was a disease that turned mortals and animals into demons. The source of this plague was the chain god Tharizdun. I personally didn't really care for this event, though it had its bright spots. This was kind of like a crossover between a few different settings who all experienced the plague, including Dark Sun and the Forgotten Realms. What I do like about this event is how it nailed how I feel demons themselves should feel. And my adventures in Nentir Vale always had plenty of Abyssal Plague leanings. And Tharizdun isn't the only god. You've got the Raven Queen watching from her icy throne in the Shadowfell, and Orcus stirs beneath forgotten altars. I personally love the 4E Pantheon, and it's present in Nentir Vale, so I love the Nentir Vale Pantheon. Also, the world is ancient, and the Vale sits atop the ruins of Bael'Terath and Arcosia, a pair of empires that literally destroyed each other in a god-fueled apocalypse. Tieflings were humans that made pacts with the devils, and Dragonborn swore oaths to gods of order and flame. And then they fought. These are the two empires. Now they're both dust, and your players can crawl through what's left. And there's aspects of Nentir Vale that have become kind of in vogue since its release. I once sold Nentir Vale to someone by comparing it to Dark Souls. Yeah, I think whenever there's a new FromSoft game, people want to be able to just grab a piece of that Miyazaki magic and mystery and implant it into their D&D game, which makes sense. Souls games are very fulfilling and invoke a ton of mystery and imagination. The environmental storytelling, the danger that takes place steps from a safe haven, the story that takes place on top of the bones of fallen empire, the cycles, yes, Nentir Vale has cycles, and the big bad named enemies, those aspects are all present in Nentir Vale. And well, really that's all I have to say. In the description, I've put a link to the DM's Guild for Nentir Vale centered products. These are affiliate links, so if you click them and make a purchase, this will also help the channel. If you've ever played in the Nentir Vale, or if this is the first time you've ever seen or heard of it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment with your favorite NPC, your weirdest dungeon crawl, or just a villain you think belongs out in the dark of Nentir Vale. And as always, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!